Factual issues have become polarized. People are too busy to make ends meet. What happened? Why does it seem we're witnessing the collapse of modern civilization? Automation and technology was supposed to make life easier for everyone. Nobody should have to go hungry. Technology's advanced, but our social systems didn't keep up with the changes.
The Rational View is a weekly series hosted by me, Dr. Hal Scott, providing a rational, evidence-based perspective on important societal issues.
Produced by Soapbox Media.
Hello, Happy New Year, and welcome to another episode of The Rational View. In fact, another year of The Rational View. In this episode, I'm bringing you my 2022 Rational View Year in Review, followed by a cool Pecha Kucha presentation that I made last year to a group of football alumni put on by my public school friend, Andy Vasily, host of the Run Your Life podcast. The presentation is called Why We Need a Rational View, and it defines much of what I've learned about communicating the concepts of science and the need for a rational discussion in social policy in a polarized world. Now, Pecha Kucha is an odd term, one that I learned about at first from this invitation I received from Andy. It's, as he tells me, a Japanese term meaning chit-chat, and it's a very specific format of presentation to be giving. It's kind of unique. It includes a timed slide presentation alongside your talk, and you need to present alongside a strict 20-second per slide moving picture presentation that you make in the background. So there's like a clock on each of your slides. And if you've never done it before, it's not as easy as it looks. I can talk to slides forever, if I know what I'm talking about, but to get the key messages across in a very short period of time takes a lot of work in developing the presentation. So I'm really proud of the presentation. If you like it, I urge you to follow up by watching the Rational View YouTube channel. This will be coming out 1 month later on YouTube for this presentation to see the slides that go alongside it. If you like what you're hearing, please press like in your podcast app, subscribe, and follow me. We got a lot of interesting stuff that we're going to be thinking about for 2023, and I welcome your feedback and any comments you'd like to make to me. I'd love to hear from you. So before I start the Pecha Kucha presentation, I'd like to do a brief 2022 the Rational View Year in Review. It's a bit of a tongue twister. So thinking back to some of the key topics that I covered, what I try to do with the podcast is to have a series of linked podcasts on a certain topic, exploring the science and the main ideas behind these topics. So some of the cool ideas we talked about, we started the year looking at evolution, and we had a really cool talk with Professor Niles Eldredge, one of the founders of the theory of punctuated equilibrium, which is an upgrade to the Darwinian theory of gradual evolution, for example. I've done several podcasts on the topic of consciousness and awareness, and I love that. I learned so much in that, so many great interviews. I did The Art of War for social media warriors, for my followers out there to help push these ideas of science and rationality into the mainstream and fight against the forces of darkness. And my review of fusion in general and cold fusion specifically, which got a lot of interest. And we ended the year with a review of cognitive bias and how that affects us. My best episodes of the year by downloads, the Best Episode of the Year award goes to Laser Fusion Ignition with Drs. Hurricane and Zylstra. Coincidentally, there was a big announcement after this podcast that got a lot of publicity about the NIF facility achieving ignition with their laser inertial plasma. Honorable mention goes to Dr. Bernardo Kastrup on the universal mind. He has a very large following in the realm of consciousness for his theory of the universal mind and how we are all broken off from the universal mind. So a very interesting interview with him and a lot of interest in that one. Other interesting podcasts that I urge you to go take a listen to. If you haven't heard them yet, there was Angelica Ung on can-do reactors, Mark Wortman on Admiral Rickover and the nuclear navy. There's a podcast on the invasion of Ukraine and the discussion on why we need not fear nuclear reactors in a war zone. And as in a somber note, I'd like to note the passing of Professor Don Gurnett, one of the instrument scientists on the Voyager mission, who did an interesting interview with me a few months before his death, and a year before. And I urge you to go look at that because it was a great chat with Professor Gurnett. And it's sad that he has passed. For 2023, let me know what topics you'd love to see covered in the Rational View. I'd love to hear your feedback on where we should be going and what interests you. Ping me on Facebook, message me on Twitter. I'm interested in suggestions for guests and topics. So now, thank you for listening to the review. Without further ado, here's my 2022 Pecha Kucha talk on why we need a rational view.
Okay, look at this. The wizard. Up next, Dr. Hal Scott, and Churchy talked about the list of speakers and the impressive list of speakers, and there have been a number of impressive people who have spoken here this evening. Dr. Hal Scott, physicist. I could stop there. Space science. Also a podcast host for the Rational View, something podcast that I would advise all of you to find it on whatever device or streaming service that you use to do podcasts. And okay, here's the fun fact. Scored an 8-ender in curling. For those who know what that actually means, it's highly impressive and probably in the same universe as Dr. Weiss with the 4 holes in ones and 2 double eagles. So without further ado, Dr. Hal Scott.
Oh, that's okay. So thanks a lot, Andy, for having me here. I really didn't know what I was getting into on this. I kind of got Andy into this as some of you talking in front of a group of his football buddies from the Lancers, And as a science geek, I was worried a little bit about getting wedgied here. And then after Churchy's talk, I was like, ooh, geez. Great talk, by the way. So I want to talk a little bit about a rational view. That's the name of my podcast. So a little bit of an intro. You may recognize the Big Bang Theory show. Maybe not big with the football crowd, but it resonated with me. I grew up on a farm in Leamington, similar to Penny. I did a PhD in experimental astrophysics, kind of like a cross between Raj and Leonard, if you ever watched the show. And then I entered the space industry like Wolowitz. And here are some of the cool things I got to do in space. I built a blood analyzer for the International Space Station, an imager for Canada's Sapphire Defense Satellite, and we built in Ottawa the fine guidance sensor on the James Webb Space Telescope, which just sent back the deepest image of the universe. But I want to talk a little bit. I haven't mentioned Sheldon. You can see his shirt. He's got the Green Lantern symbol on that, if you recognize it, if you're familiar with comic books. And the original Green Lantern is Alan Scott, my namesake. So there you go. So I was a child of the space age, like Andy. I wanted to see a Star Trek future where people cooperate and work together to better themselves, one where humanity comes together to do great things. Eliminate hunger, cure disease, explore the universe. Food and energy become plentiful thanks to technology. Over the course of my lifetime, robots and computers took over and productivity skyrocketed. Here's a graph of GDP versus years. So I'm born here, and at the end is where we are. You can see we've more than doubled our productivity per hour thanks to all of the automation that we have. Why does it seem we're working harder for less? If you're like me, you're a little bit appalled by how we ended up. We've become polarized in our society to the point where alternative facts mean we don't even share a common reality anymore. Anti-science sentiment seems rampant. Factual issues have become polarized. People are too busy to make ends meet. What happened? Why does it seem we're witnessing the collapse of modern civilization? Automation and technology was supposed to make life easier for everyone. Nobody should have to go hungry. Technology's advanced, but our social systems didn't keep up with the changes. I think at the root of anti-science sentiment is a basic mistrust, which grew from legitimate grievances based on institutional misconduct. There was the tragedy of thalidomide, petrochemical industries polluting our water and blackening our skies. It's not all been bad. Women's liberation opened up new opportunities that once seemed impossible. As more women entered the workforce, however, families with both parents working have less free time. Parents now have to catch up on home maintenance on the weekends, doing laundry instead of hanging out with friends and relaxing and shooting golf. Where's this sacrifice of free time gotten us? It affects our ability to participate fully in democracy and to keep up with issues. Hours worked by the median household have doubled over my lifetime. Productivity has doubled per hour. What should have happened to the median household income? Doubled and doubled, it's 4 times. However, the median household has only gone up about 30% in inflation-adjusted income over the same period. Mechanization advantages were not distributed to the workers. Blue-collar workers were instead laid off or had to accept less wages as their productivity could not keep up. With the advent of artificial intelligence, this is going to accelerate. Social media now has given us access to all the world's knowledge, but it doesn't make us think, and instead led to echo chambers. Social media incentivize spreading polarized memes that elicit angry clicking. It gives large corporations insight into our desires and our thinking. With artificial intelligence, the same technology that defeated the world's grandmaster chess champion is now influencing your purchasing patterns. It's showing you ads and articles that hook you to the app. Polarization is fed by organizations with deep pockets and an agenda. Bots and troll farms exist. They can buy data on all of us. Fake accounts are cheap and are used to strengthen the echo chambers that we comfortably live in by posting divisive memes and amplifying pre-existing biases. Weak leaders leverage this existing polarization to bolster their support. To do this, they caricature the opposition. They demonize a minority. They blame someone powerless for your problems. Feel better than someone. Direct society's anger to their political ends. We're constantly being turned away from the true enemies. Those who benefit from misinformation. Those who hoard the productivity gains for themselves. Those who will benefit when trust and the key pillars of liberal democracy are undermined. I asked myself how I could make a difference. So I started a podcast. I want to train an army in the art of social media warfare. Why listen to me? I'm not a public figure. I'm not seeking world domination. I'm a scientist and a skeptic. And I can give people access to the tools that I've learned to challenge the deluge of misinformation. I'm building a fellowship of like-minded folks who are all working together to take on this task. I want to help society break the echo chambers and fight polarization. As the previous speakers told us, we all share values. Half the population isn't stupid. They may be misguided and overworked and struggling to pay the bills, but they're not your enemy. What can you do? Truly listen to people's concerns, make connections, have one-on-one conversations. You can question their thinking, but show patience. Don't stoop to ad hominem. Don't spread caricatures and hate memes. And come listen to the Rational View podcast. I investigate polarizing issues, I interview experts, and argue for rational social policy. I even got to interview the world-famous Dr. Neil deGrasse Tyson on my podcast. Hopefully starting a movement towards a more rational world. Thank you.
If you'd like to follow up with more in-depth discussions, please come find us on Facebook at The Rational View and join our discussion group. If you like what you're hearing, please consider visiting my Patreon page at patron.podbean.com/therationalview. Thanks for listening.